welcome back, or welcome if you're just now joining us. If you don't recall, I'm Brad Nellis, Director of NEOSA, and we're proud to host something new at the symposium this year, Tech Talks. We've recruited 6 very impressive individuals to share their thoughts today, their expertise on leadership, security, innovation, and more. Each will speak for roughly 30 minutes, and we'll take short breaks between each presentation, with a slightly longer break between the 4th and 5th presenters. Additionally, I'll share some brief information between speakers, a NEOSA minute, if you will, to update you on certain happenings in the tech sector, things that we're involved with, things that we're just aware of, things that I think that you should be aware of. That's it for your instructions. Now let me introduce Don Kosick from Time Warner Cable Business Class. I'd like to invite him to the podium now. We're very proud of the long-time sponsorship that Time Warner Cable Business Class has offered to the symposium. They've supported NEOSA in a number of different ways. And Don will introduce our first Tech Talk presenter. So please welcome Don Kosick.
Thank you, Brad. As Brad mentioned, my name is Don Kosick. I'm the Vice President for Time Warner Cable Business Class in the Midwest region. I am very honored to introduce today's opening presenter. As Brad mentioned, this is our 4th year, and we hope to continue that because I was just telling the gentleman from Alcoa, Phil, I'm sorry, that I have the Midwest region, and by far Northeastern Ohio really has their act together when it comes to IT and CIO symposiums. So great job, Brad and team. Okay, Time Warner Cable. They for my money, I guess they let me do a brief commercial, and I'll quickly do that. Time Warner Cable Business Class. A lot of you may not know what we do. You think of cable TV and residential. Of course we do that, and I think we do it very well. But on my side of the business, we do data, voice, and video. Anything AT&T, Verizon can do, we can do it too. Anywhere from fiber gigabit type circuits, cable modems for branch locations, phone, both PRI, as well as plain old telephone systems, and of course cable TV for universities and hospitals. We do a lot of that. So really what my commercial is, but the message is if you have an IT need, please reach out to Time Warner Cable Business Class, okay? So, moving on. At this point, let me introduce our first keynote presenter, Hal Becker. And there's his picture. Looking good, Hal. Hal is an accomplished author, speaker, coach, and more. He is very well known as a sales and customer service expert, having written such books as Can I Have 5 Minutes of Your Time and Lip Service. He's also developed a keen understanding of executive leadership from his travels and engagements. Hal's presentation today, Leadership Lessons from Lincoln to Picard, is certain to be thought-provoking and memorable. I don't know about you all, but I'm more of a Captain Kirk fan, so it's going to be interesting how he can be Picard for all you Trekkies out there. Also, Hal and I had a chance to talk. What's very impressive, all the proceeds from his book sales goes to cancer research. So join me in please welcoming Hal Becker to the stage. Thank you.
Thanks. Really pisses you off when your picture is bigger than you. All right, before I start, let me tell you what I love about Embassy Suites Hotel. Anybody staying here by any chance? Okay. If you ever stayed at Embassy Suites, I remember doing this with my daughter years and years ago when she was young, because we had it's tech. I could tie it in somehow. All the TVs are on the same remote control. So I remember taking my daughter going, come with me. She couldn't have been older than 8, because all the rooms are glass rooms. It's all, open atrium. And we take the remote, we're just going by each room. This person's watching a different channel now. This person's TV's out. Freaking people out. Okay, so that's my tech thing. So, all right, here's the deal. I got 30 minutes to talk about, 7 hours of information. So I'm going to obviously not cover a lot about leadership, but I laughed when I was asked to speak here because I'm thinking about this. I'm going, all right, we got David from the FBI. We got Tom from Sherwin-Williams. We got Sashi from NASA. AJ from Highland. We got Jim, a coach's coach. So I'm looking at this going, okay, here's an orange, here's a grapefruit, here's a kiwi, here's a banana, here's a fork. What doesn't belong here? I'm the fork. All right. What we're going to talk about today, and it's funny, from Lincoln to Picard, because leadership is leadership. And everywhere you go, you hear, about leadership and leadership techniques. There's new books monthly on leadership. And what makes a great leader? What makes the best leader? See, a lot of people confuse leadership and management. So I'm going to read a few things and go through it. And by the way, I see a lot of you with your iPads, your Droids, your iPhones. So here's the deal. I'm going to walk around, and if you're looking in your crotch, or doing one or two things while I'm speaking, and neither are acceptable, okay? If you're getting your emails, I will bust you. If you're on the note program, I'm impressed, okay? And if you switch back and forth, I'm too fast, okay? So there you go. Anyway, so here's the deal. We manage things, but we lead people. How do you teach leadership? Now, I will tell you that and I'm a sales trainer, dude. Look, my job is to go into companies, look at their sales structure, reorganize it if necessary, then train their people or train all the people depending on the company. But when I work in a company, I must work with senior management, usually CEO down. I don't care if it's a 30-man company or a Fortune 100 company. You still, because everything starts top down from the vision, but it's bottom up, and it works and it meets in the middle. And that's company after company. And everywhere I go, well, hell, our business, we're a little bit different. We're a little bit unusual. No such thing. Tell if any of you fall in these categories. You're for-profit or non-profit. Most of you are probably for profit. Your best clients spend the most amount of money with you. Your worst ones nickel and dime you to death. You sell a product or a service or a combination of both. Most of you probably sell a combination of both. Your best customers spend the most amount of money, as I said. It doesn't matter. Business is business. The great companies are run well. I can take I can take this hotel, which is one of my favorite hotels in the city, bring in the worst GM, and this place will go downhill. Or I can take the worst performing Kmart or Walmart and bring the best GM, and it'll go up. It all comes down with leadership. So you got to remember that everything that I'm going to talk about today, I have completely researched. There's nothing new. There's nothing new in leadership. There's nothing new in management. This stuff has been around for 2,000 years. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, Influence People, 1936. The second most published book behind the Bible. His whole book, kind of 2 words, find want. Find out what people want. Find out what your team members want. What do they want? Stephen Covey, his book was based on Socrates, Plato, and Jesus. It doesn't matter. All this stuff is just repackaged. What is new is technology. Technology is constantly changing. We know that. You know that. Leadership doesn't change. So we manage things, but we lead people. So I'm going to read a couple of things on leadership, because this was so basic. When somebody sent this to me, I went, wow, it's so clear. 4 lines to me say it all. Say it all. Number 1, management is about doing, while leadership is about being. And I already said it. We manage things, but we lead people. Number 3, to improve management, we train competencies. But to improve leadership, we build character. And number 4, companies do not train like they used to. See, in the 1970s, we had some of the greatest training going on. I want you to think, for the older people in this room, yeah, it's funny, I was just being picked up, what city I was in a couple weeks ago, and a young lady picked me up at the airport, and I was explaining to her that I only work at 2 speeds, 33 and 78. She had no idea what I was talking about. None whatsoever. I'm trying to find a young, wow, you guys got a little bit older crowd. This is good, all right. And then I was explaining to this young kid in the room, he looked just like Opie. I go, man, you look just like Opie. He goes, quote, what's an Opie? Forget it. Yeah, I'm not going to have time to figure this out for you. So what happens is in the 1970s, with some of the greatest training companies worldwide, doesn't matter what area, IBM, Procter & Gamble, AT&T, 3M, More Business Forums, NCR, Disney, Ritz-Carlton, and we had great training. What happened? IT got invented. Remember the first IBM XT computer, 82. I remember going into rooms with the lead floors, air conditioning being pumped in, a bank of computers like those doors. That is more, my iPhone has more memory than that. And then we spent all this money, we had infrastructure. This is before Al Gore invented the internet, okay? And we had all this infrastructure. Where was that money coming from? It's got to come from sales, got to come from advertising, got to come from marketing, has to come from training. So little by little, our training went away. So let me give you my only original term I've ever come up with, and this is mine. And it happened to most of you because IT was, I mean, there was no such, back in the 1960s, yeah, I'm a chief technology, I'm a CTO. The hell's that? There was no such thing. There was no IT. So this is my only original term. It's called poof management. And this happened to many of you in this room. Start off in IT, You did pretty well. Your team got built up. Your company became bigger if you stayed at the same company. We had to start somewhere. Or you moved to another company and maybe you got a good attitude and you have good skills. And little by little, then you did okay. And then the promotion fairy came by and went, hey, Paul, poof, you're a manager. Now you're a manager. Now think what you had to do. You had to go from thinking about yourself to putting the whole team first. Whether it's IT, whether it's sales, whether it's customer service, we're in our own little world doing our thing. And then you're the manager of the team. Who's shown you how to lead a team? No one. So what do we start doing? We start doing what we think is best. Now there's a ton of management books out there. There's the 1 Minute Manager. There's Good to Great. I can go on and just keep dropping names. But I'm going to give you the best book on leadership I've ever read. And it's maybe a 2.5, 3 hour book. It's 170 pages of that. I'm talking about small pocket size. Get the book, Lincoln on Leadership. Who's ever read this book? Anybody? Okay, we got one person. How many people read? I know it's different, a book with pages, not I. So, it's really funny. I got this new book coming out. It's hit the bookstores in a week. And this time, the publisher is it was weird. I never had this happen. Every book I've ever come out, we designed the book around the book. This book couldn't be designed around the book. The publisher designs it around Nook and Kindle and iTunes. So now they have to look at the whole digital content versus the print content because 2/3 of the bookstores are gone also. So we're in this whole new era that we're walking through it. So poof management, you've all been poofed. So what are you doing that's right? So Lincoln on Leadership, let me just read a paragraph to you about Lincoln on Leadership. One paragraph to me, says the whole book, but you really should read the book if you want to be a great leader. Tons of book on management, but today's about leadership. So let me just read this to you. Lincoln knew that leadership is realized by exerting quiet and subtle influence on a day-to-day basis, by frequently seeing followers and other people face to face. He treated everyone with the same respect and courtesy, whether they were kings or commoners. He lifted people out of their everyday selves into higher levels of performance, achievement, and awareness. He obtained extraordinary results from ordinary people by instilling purpose in their endeavors. He was open, civil, tolerant, fair, and maintained a respect for the dignity of all people at all times. He knew the value, which I'm going to come up in a video a little bit later, he knew the value of making requests as opposed to issuing orders. See, people forget what caused him to win the election. There was no social networks, media then. There was nothing. He went during the Civil War, he went down to the front lines. People go, that's Lincoln. No, it's not. That's Lincoln. That's what was he, vice president? What was he before president? I don't even know. Anybody know? Hold on a second. Anybody know? Nobody. Was he a senator? But this guy went from obscurity, he went down to the front lines. This guy has built his reputation on being a regular person. Now, there's a TV show called Undercover Boss. Many of you probably have seen it. It's two-staged of a TV show for me, but the premise is fabulous. I can't tell you how many times, I'll just give you one example without mentioning names. I'm working with the CEO of a large utility company in Florida, and he's telling me how great his company is. I go, great, when's the last time you called in for service? What do you mean? Have you ever called in your company for service on your home? No. Let's do it. They don't know you just give your address. You can just, they're not going to recognize, they're not going to put the two and two together. Let's do it. Goes, no, you're paying me to consult you. Let's do it. We get on the phone. After 22 minutes on hold, I thought the guy was going to have a stroke. He never did that. One of the CEOs I was with, I'm not going to mention, it's a large company in our marketplace. I said, so where's your Cincinnati office? He goes, well, no, you've never been there. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get out of the office and go. People don't realize the closer you are to the solution, or the problem rather, the closer you are to the problems. Sometimes we are so far removed from what's going on until we're seeing it every day, witnessing, being part of it. How do we know? A lot of this stuff, as I tell my friends, I can't believe that I get paid money to teach what I call common sense. We're getting away from common sense. Just think, how do you want to be treated? If you were a team member, how do you want to be treated? I don't know about you, I love being around people with money and power or both that don't know have any. They're just nice people. The worst drugs any leader can take is money or power. It's so nice being around someone who's just genuine, who gets it, who didn't forget where they came from. Because when you get in a high-level position, you got there 3 ways, 3 simple ways. Number 1, you were born into it. Number 2, you were married into it. Or number 3, you worked hard to get there. Either way, you're there. How do you want your reputation? So I'll never forget, I get the chance to meet a lot of famous people when you travel. Because, you know, and I'll be in like Trinidad and Tobago next week, and I can't wait to fly 11 hours to get there for an hour. But so when you fly all over, you get to meet famous people. And I'll never forget when I had a chance to meet Colin Powell twice. And he was telling me the story. Well, it's a story he tells anyhow, but it's a story. He was telling me the story about, and I don't want to mess it up. So, General Westmoreland gave him a letter and said, "Open this in 10 years. Don't open it before 10 years." And 10 years later, he opened it up, and he had the date. General Westmoreland marked the date on it. And he marked the date, and 10 years later, he opened up, and the note inside said, "You should be chief of staff by now." And he was. That's pretty cool. So the one thing I learned from Colin Powell that was, to me, one of the greatest exercises ever was so simple and so basic. He said, write your obituary. And write your obituary, the younger you are to write it, the better it's going to be. You have no idea what 78 and 33 means, do you? Okay, the guy next to you is laughing at you. He's not mad at you. Yes, he is. He's mad at you because you don't know. It's okay. They'll explain to you later, you know, but I finally found someone, yes. So anyway, but here's the deal. Write your obituary. How you perceive yourself. Does your team perceive you that way? Do your family members? Do your friends? How do you want to go through life? I don't know anybody who wants to go through life really being a jerk. And then here's the other question. If you died tomorrow, how many of your team members or people you work with or associated with would want to come to your funeral? That's the legacy of a person, not how much power you got. So the reason I talk about Lincoln, and then we go all the way to Picard, I'm fascinated with sales management. It's management in general. In fact, I don't like baseball. I'm sorry if anybody here is a baseball fan. I'm just not a big baseball fan. In fact, to me, the only thing more boring than baseball is golf on radio. So take a second for some of you to connect those dots. But so about 2 summers ago, one of my close friends is close friends with, who was the coach of the Indians? Big guy. He and his wife lived there forever. Mike Hargrove. So I'm playing golf with Mike Hargrove, and the guy, his arm is bigger than me, and he hits the ball like 300. So we're sitting down. He's a really nice guy, not pretentious. He goes, "Hal, a lot of people want to know about baseball. You have any questions about baseball?" No. Nothing. I think it's very boring. Yeah, I do have a question for you. He looked at me because he's like, and I don't care, because to me, you're a guy. You know, just a guy. He did well. He worked hard. I do have a question. I want to ask a question about leadership. And he goes, "What's that?" I go, "I don't know anything about baseball, but I've been told this guy, Albert Bell, is a real case. The guy's a problem child, but he's got incredible talent." He goes, "Yeah. So when you first met him, did you see that?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What did you do?" Because you're a leader of the team. I mean, what's a coach's job? What's the coach's job? To take their players to a higher level of performance, right? That's your job. Take your players to a higher level of performance. What did you do with your troubled player? He goes, "Oh, that's really easy. I asked him one question. One question was able to turn him around." "Really? What's that?" He goes, "Hal, here's what I asked Albert." I said, "Albert, do you love baseball?" He goes, "Absolutely." "Do you want to be in the Hall of Fame?" What do you think his answer is? "Of course I do." "How are you going to do it if you're sitting on the bench?" That's all he had to say to him. That was it. Makes sense. So some of your employees, can you change them? No. Anybody here ever get a rescue dog? Who's ever gotten a rescue dog that's been beaten? Now, when you got that dog, did it bond with you, or are you married? Or your wife? Who did it bond with? Okay, so your wife couldn't even get as close to the dog as you. I mean, did it bond with both of you, or just one of the other?
She found both of us primarily.
Okay, and if I came over to your house, as much as I love dogs, and I deliberately go slow, and I go real slow, that dog's going to stand and hide right behind you, isn't it? That dog's broken. Some people are broken. Can you change people? Nope. But I love what they said in the book Good to Great. When you get the right people on the bus, it's easy. We got to find the right people. So I talk about Picard, and a lot of the books I've been reading on management because I want to learn. That one of the best books I ever read, I was stunned by it, was was a book, it was written by a Cleveland professor, as a matter of fact, from Case Western Reserve, called Make It So by Picard. So let me explain why I'm telling you about this. I used to love, just like you, I used to love Star Trek. I was a Kirk fan. I loved, because it was new, it was novel, all through the 60s and 70s. And when Next Generation came out, I said, I'm going to give it a shot, you know. And so I put it on, and I sat there like just, stunned. And I knew it's a tech audience, so hopefully you're with me on this. So I'm just sitting there like stunned. And I was so impressed because it wasn't just science fiction, it was plots, it was themes about rape, incest, greed, power, death, all these things that we have in present time portrayed in the future. So I watched the second week and I taped, in those days you taped it, you know, you set your VCR with the dial, and I taped it. And at the end I see Rick Berman, executive producer. I call him. Now, it took me 4 or 5 attempts to get him on the phone. I said, Rick, hi, I'm an author from Cleveland. You don't know me. I have one question. It'll take 4 seconds, just one question. He goes, what's that? Do you have management consultants on staff? He goes, absolutely. He goes, how'd you know? How did I know? This is the most amazing management I've ever seen. He goes, yeah, we're paying a couple $100,000 for these guys. Wow. So that point on, I was hooked. Let's roll clip 1. I'm going to show you. I'm going to set it up first. This is clip 1. Who's ever seen Star Trek Next Generation? Hopefully most of you can raise your hands. Picard's the captain of the ship, and he's talking about Riker or his number 2 person. Roll number 1.
As a matter of fact, I never met Will until he reported on board at Farpoint Station.
You chose your first officer without ever meeting him?
I was looking through the records of about 50 candidates, and Will's was very much like all the others, filled with lots of dry statistics and glowing letters of recommendation that tell you nothing. I was about to put it aside, look at another file, and then something caught my eye. There was an incident on Altair 3 when Will was first officer of the Hood. He refused to let Captain DeSoto beam down during a crisis. He disobeyed a direct order, and he risked a general court-martial because he thought he was right. Now, when I read that, I knew that I had found my number 1.
You wanted someone with a history of disobedience.
I wanted someone who would stand up to me. Someone who was more concerned with the safety of the ship and accomplishing the mission than with how it might look on his record. To me, that's one of the marks of a good officer.
Frankly, I've always felt it was more important for an officer to trust his captain's judgment. In a crisis, there's no time for explanations. Orders have to be obeyed without question, or lives may be lost.
I'm aware of that, Admiral.
Of course you are.
Amazing. I don't know about you, I've always said the height of someone's career is their interview. Who's ever come into the interview and go, I'm not that good. Kind of a pissy attitude half the time. You know, I'm going to show up late the first day anyhow. Everybody tells you how great they are. And then it goes downhill from there. But this next video was probably one of the greatest 2 leadership lessons I've ever seen compacted in a TV show in my entire life. Let's roll number 2.
Is there something I can do for you, Captain?
Oh, back it up. I'm sorry, for some reason must have started from the beginning. There you go. Now this is Riker, his number 2 guy. And the captain that's coming in is the acting captain because Picard's on a mission or held captive or who knows, doesn't matter. But this is the acting captain. Thanks.
Come in.
Am I disturbing you?
Not at all.
Musician?
Yes.
Classical? Contemporary?
Jazz.
Ah.
Is there something I can do for you, Captain?
Are you aware of our plans to attack the Cardassian invasion fleet?
Yes, sir. I understand you've been talking to every shuttle pilot on board.
Let's drop the ranks for a moment. I don't like you. I think you're insubordinate, arrogant, willful, and I don't think you're a particularly good first officer. But you are also the best pilot on the ship.
Well, now that the ranks are dropped, Captain, I don't like you either. You are arrogant and closed-minded. You need to control everything and everyone. You don't provide an atmosphere of trust, and you don't inspire these people to go out of their way for you. You've got everybody wound up so tight. There's no joy in anything. I don't think you're a particularly good captain.
I won't order you to fly this mission.
Then ask me.
Will you pilot the shuttle, Commander?
Yes. You're welcome.
If you don't see the message in there, something's wrong. Incredible. Everything we're talking about. Asked. Great leadership. You see, a lot of leaders want to be liked. Liked has nothing to do with management, especially leadership. Leadership is about being respected, and you earn your respect. You don't just get it by trying to be liked. But the thing that I got to ask all of you, and I want you to, if I can have you go out with 3 things, I like to leave people with some things that you can do immediately. Here's the thought-provoking question: are you a proactive manager or a proactive coach or a reactive manager? I'm sure Jim's going to talk about coaching and his lessons of leadership. Which one are you? See, here's the thing. You've never seen a coach. I guarantee you, Mr. Trussell or whoever comes in, or Lou Holtz will never say to a team or the new owner of the Browns, go, all right, guys, have a good year. Have a great season. Here's our schedule for the upcoming year. There's no practice this year because you're all pros. And somebody has to come into my office and let me know if we won or lost the game so I can put it in my Excel spreadsheet. Have a good year, guys. What's going to happen to that team? Bottom. How often are you with your team members observing? Not micromanaging, watching and observing. That's great coaching. So anyway, hey, where's the sport to the young? This is for you. Thanks for being a good sport. Who's got their iPad on and is actually taking notes? There you go. I'm impressed. All right. Oh, I'll get you later. Here's a couple little tricks. 3 things. Get a profile sheet. Here's what a profile sheet is. Do it with your iPad. You can do it electronically. You can do it manually. It doesn't matter. Get a sheet of paper. With every single person, write the date down and put their name on the top, rather. One side is good, one side is bad. Pros, cons, doesn't matter. Look for things that are right. The 1-minute manager always said, look for things that are right. In America, we can praise in public. Parts of Asia, you cannot. It's very rude. Always reprimand in private. Always. So keep a journal. All of a sudden you say, hey, I found, let's say Brian did an incredible job on this project. Brian did a fabulous job. I'm going to write it down. And let's say next week he shows up late or didn't do something. I'll put that down also. When it's time for his review, I'm going to have all these notes, empirical data. Hey, Brian, remember on this day you did this, and September 11th you did this, and October 17th, he's going to think, wow, this guy Becker doesn't forget a thing. I don't remember what I did yesterday, but it's written down. So here's the 2 things you can do immediately when you get back to your office. How many have staff? More than 2 people. Perfect. How many get this all day long? Questions. How many get people asking you questions? All right. If you don't write this down and make it part of your DNA, you won't do it. Starting tomorrow when you go to the office, when anybody asks you a question, here's what I want you to say to them from now on. What do you think? That's it. Don't say that. What do you think? And then be quiet. 2 things are going to happen. They're going to start thinking for themselves, and they're going to finally stop asking because all he's going to say to me is, what do you think? But here's my favorite one. How many of you get this? We got a problem. Who gets that? Never. Okay. So here's what you're going to do. And you got to put this in your own words, but almost exactly like I'm telling you right now. They go, we got a problem. Here's what I want you to say to them. No, you don't. No, we don't. You do. Now, after they stop freaking out, I want people to get to the point. We're all busy. You know, I remember when I was a kid, you know, we only had phone with the cord that reached from here to Medina. Now we got voicemail and email and text and fax. We got everything. So here's what I want you to say to them. I want you to say to them, tell me your problem in less than 40 words. Don't build me a clock when all I ask you is what time it is. I want people to learn how to get to the point where we're a YouTube society. Things are changing. I was in Chicago last week and I watched them walk into a pole because they're looking down. Retailers are lowering their displays. We are so disengaged. How many of you got more than 2 kids and you finally realize your kids are texting each other at the dinner table? Okay? We've changed. We got to understand that. We're going to continue to change. But, so here's the thing. So when somebody says we got a problem, say, no, you don't. You do. Tell me the problem in less than 40 words. Here's why. You want them to get to the point and tell you the problem. As soon as they tell it to you, you say to them, because you got to hear about the problem, because you're still the leader, assign a timeline to it. Based on the problem, maybe it has to be done today, maybe it has to be done Monday, whatever that is. So just say, okay, Robert, here's the deal. Don't give me one, but give me 2 solutions to your problem by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Just like that. But no, think it through. Give me 2 solutions by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Now, when he comes at 5 o'clock, I promise you in every case, not every case, almost every case, one of those 2 solutions what you're going to tell them to do anyhow. Now, what does a great leader do? Robert, you thought it through. Fabulous. I like your thought process. Do it. Or as he says, make it so. Now what happens? They learned their lesson. When the problem comes up again, they know how to handle it. That's leadership. Well, I've got hours more of information that I cannot go through, so let me just leave you this one line. You got your daytime kids and you got your nighttime kids. You spend more time with your daytime kids than your nighttime kids. With your kids, who's got more than 3 kids? Are they all identical? Different personalities? Different desires, aspirations, different way they think? Do you treat them all the same or differently? Yet we treat a team the same way. And then we tell our employees what to do, but we show our kids how to do it. Start getting involved, not just coming to a conference once a year, but pick up some books, do something, YouTube video, anything on leadership techniques. My time is up. Thank you so much.